I was just wondering if you two could just tell me a little bit about your operation, how you kind of came to be in Hettinger, North Dakota, and a little bit about your family.
When we first got married, I guess we came to Hettinger, and then I went to college, and he was working at Dakota Packing, like he said, or Merwin Meats, and then we went to Dickinson, and I went to nursing school and graduated in '75. And my dad had decided that we could come and take over the farm. It was a centennial farm, or homestead farm. So that's what we did. We came down, and I started working at the hospital for a short time, and then to the nursing home, and that's how we ended up down here, because this is where we were both from. So.
There you go. And do you have anything you'd like to add to the story?
Yeah, we were pretty young, I'll put it that way. I had a chance to, at the same time we went farming her dad offered me a chance to come down to farm and ranch, and at the same time I had a chance to be a federal meat inspector in West Fargo PAC. So I had to make a decision there, and I thought, the country, because I wasn't used to living in town, and I was ready to go back to the country. So yeah, that's about all I got to add.
Well, and how those really like kind of a life decision as far as east side of the state or west side, and life could have looked pretty different depending on if you would have gone a different direction.
I think that was a hard decision. We never did like the east side of the state.
No, I didn't like the east side of Missouri.
Yeah. We got God's country here.
That's totally fair. I love the west side of the state as well. Now, as we kind of start jumping into the questions a little bit more, you talked about when you first came back, you had gone to school for nursing, and you were working at, now it's Dakota Pack, but then it was
Merwin Meats.
Merwin Meats. So as a young person, do you have any advice for young producers as they're kind of coming home or thinking about coming home? Maybe they have some important decisions they need to make.
Well, at the time we came down, I was here about 5 years, and then they had, it got to where the interest rates got up to about 20%. My biggest concern was not to get in debt, too deep in debt, so you could get out of, if you got in real deep, there was a ton of them went under at that time in the early 80s. And well, I was kind of hanging in there too, but you don't want to get too deep in debt. That's the big thing I kind of went by,
Some good advice.
I felt like I was supporting his bad habits sometimes. Working as a nurse, but it went good. We never had a hired man, and I'd come home from work and he'd need help with repairing something or calving or something. So
there's a lot of long hours.
Yeah, I tried to help out as much as I could on the farm. So
of course, the equipment back then was a lot smaller. And,
right.
Way smaller equipment.
Well, and you said that you went back to your home place, right?
Where you grew up. That's where I grew up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a centennial farm.
Yeah. Yeah, my grandpa settled it in '07. So.
And where was he from?
He was from Norway. He came to like Sharon, North Dakota, or someplace in there, and then he met my grandma, and then they came out and they homesteaded, and they each got a 60 acres. Was it 60 acres? Is that what they were getting? No,
160 acres.
160 acres, yeah, and they each got that, so they put it together, and then they had to build a sod house and get married.
And the house, they lived in they had 10 children. And the sod house, and they built this little house, and then they added on later, but the little part was put in 1912.
Yeah, something like that.
And we couldn't figure out how they had 10 kids in that little, but her aunt told me that they, as she recalled, they would use the sod house and the house at the
They
same
kind of
time.
slept at the sod house, and then they went over to the other house for the meals and stuff like that.
Rotate back.
Yeah, and then they built on in 18 or something like that. So.
Well, and little people take up a lot less room than big people, right?
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned about the 80s and the really high interest prices, and I know I've heard my parents talk about how, our home, they're just so grateful that our grandparents held on to the place and got through the 80s and everything, and there was a lot of places that weren't able to hold on. Mm-hmm. What would you say the biggest challenge you've seen in agriculture over the years?
Biggest challenge or
change or whatever. Yeah.
well,
Bigger farming.
Well, changes can be challenges too.
Right. Yeah.
Well, Jeepers Creepers, when I was a kid, we actually went out with horses, believe it or not, and picked corn. And we had, me and my dad had one horse and this little cotton picking wagon, and picked corn, and we rode the binder. And there were long days. The biggest challenges was, I don't know, just the long hours, and I don't know just how to.
The weather always gives you a challenge sometimes.
What's that?
The weather.
Yeah, the weather was always a challenge.
Yeah.
But it came from way back and riding a horse, corn cultivator with a horse drawn. That was the biggest change to now, where they got Jeepers Creepers, 50, 60-foot air seeders. Mm-hmm. So I mean, the change itself was just enormous. And since I quit, which was 12 years ago,
Yeah.
I had a little 12-foot drill. Jordan's got, he's got a big air seeder. I mean, the change has just been enormous in the last 12 years.
Yeah. Same with the
Since I quit.
Mm-hmm.
Same with the combine. He had a combine without a cab, and now they got combines with everything.
Right. My dad, he'll talk about feeding cows and like the really bad blizzards. He talks about like 97 and 98, and he had a cabless tractor, and I'll go out and help him, and I'm just like, oh, gosh, Dad, I don't know if it's just because I have an office job, but I feel kind of wimpy. Like, you're way tougher than I am. And he goes, well, I am tougher than you, Hannah. But back then, you also had maybe, a third of the cattle, or you farmed a third of the land, and so you didn't.
That's true.
You didn't need it.
And I think it was more laid back then than it is now. It's so much pressure on the younger ones, but
Yeah.
maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I don't know how some of these big guys manage to keep track of everything. And
Right. You're not just farmers and ranchers, you're very much so businessmen, and you got to keep track of those numbers, and which sometimes you just want to be out farming and, or out with the cattle. You don't really want to be in the office running budgets and keeping track of those things. Now, do you have a best calving story that stands out to you over the years?
Oh, I do.
Would you care to share it with us?
Well, we were during calving season. When she would come home from work, she helped me. Anyway, I went out there one time, and there was a cow and a calf. And I had a cattle dog, and it was right behind me. And anyway, this cow was a gentle cow, but with the dog behind, she just had her calf. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I go over there to tag the calf and stuff, and this cow takes me. So, and I mean, it's just rolling me all over the place, and I hear her hollering, shoo, shoo.
Well, I didn't have a stick or anything. I didn't expect this.
But I had to laugh. I mean, it wasn't funny, because it tore my ear down a ways, but I had to laugh because I could hear her saying, shoo, shoo. So I guess that was my favorite one.
I don't know if it's the best one, but yeah.
But anyway, we got up and got the dog away, and the cow was just fine.
Yeah.
But it was actually funny because I could hear her in the background telling her, shoot. Thought, boy, this is going to do a lot of good.
The one time he thought we were in track or something, because we were in the barn and I was supposed to bring this cow out. Well, it decided to chase me. So I'm running up the thing, and I hand the stick off to him, and away I go. The cow's after me.
Well, I was going to get the cow out, and the calf was on the other end. And I told her, dude, let's go run it out. And pretty soon here she comes, the cow behind her. And she could really motor with the cow behind. Hands me this stick. And I had to laugh then too, because I couldn't believe how fast she could run.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always a few stories there.
Yeah.
Right. No, it's amazing. Once you get under pressure, the things at your body, you get a little adrenaline going. And
Yeah.
you can really impress yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, flipping the tide a little bit, do you have a best harvest story or just a time of everybody like really coming together?
Yeah, I probably do have a harvest story. I had an old C combine, didn't have a cab on and stuff, and anyway, underneath there was a little clutch, and I had to get underneath in this real little space, and she said, what did you say again? He said, she got really depressed looking, and she said, how are we ever going to get this in there? So it was kind of funny.
I did a lot of praying when we were trying to fix on combines because nothing was going right. And oh dear Lord, just please help us get this thing fixed.
Other than that, I don't know. It was just.
Yeah, well, it doesn't really go with our harvest, but the combine does. But anyway, that's.
Of course, the little combines and the little trucks, and it was long days.
Yeah. Remember my sister that died of cancer now, but she'd come out with the kids. They always had to ride in the combine and come and ride in the combine. And then my uncle from Denver would come all the time. And he just loved to go and stick his arms in the oats and it's so nice. Bob says, oh, it's itchy.
He just dig down in there.
Really enjoyed himself.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah, like she said, her sister, once a year she had to come ride the combine with the little guys.
Now, we were talking about changes earlier, and even in the past 12 years since you've retired, you've seen a lot of changes. What do you think has been the most positive change that you've seen in agriculture?
I think the most positive for me probably was, we used to summer fallow half, and I got sandy soil up there, and I did get an undercutter before I retired because of the blowing. Now it's double cropped, you don't have the blowing. I think that's real positive. Having said that, I think we use a lot of chemical that, do we use too much? So there's a plus and a minus there. But basically keeping the land from blowing, I think, was huge,
For a little positive thing that we've been able to do.
For the positive aspect, yeah. Yeah.
What about for you?
I don't know, I guess I just don't have any comment there. I was just going on to the next one to tell us the story of the community coming together. And I don't know if the community, but in '88 he had colon cancer, and it was right during calving time and feeding, and his dad came up and fed cows, and his brother came up and fed cows, and then our son-in-law came up, and there's always, someone would pitch in and help. And I was trying to calve. We had that hay barge. You'd stick that out for the calves to go under. Well, there was a V in there. Those dumb cows that stick their head in there and then pull back. And I couldn't get them out, so I'd have to call his brother in the middle of the night. Keith, come up here and help me get this cow's head out of here, or come out. But we did pretty good with calving when we still had one of the sons at home, so I switched my schedule so I could work the PM shift. Then when he come home from school, he was there, so it worked out pretty good.
I think a community coming together, we've got a little church up there, which I keep thinking, are we going to keep going? It's the last country church in Adams County. And the people basically at the little church really come together well to keep it going, And now we're in the process of putting siding and windows in. And we put steel on, and Jordan had a telehandler. Otherwise, we probably never got the steel on, but we really come together good for that, And if you need help, there's always somebody going to help you.
Well, we have to tell the Howard and Bob story. Howard's next, he says, the electrician, the REA people came up to shut the power off because they couldn't do that. And he comes and he looks up and he says, what are you two old guys doing up there? And Howard says, well, we got 150 years experience. They're up taking the shingles off and stuff. So. But now we got the siding and the windows to put in, but we'll pull together and get it done. So.
And I think making those small improvements to the church also it helps with the longevity of it and everything.
Yeah. Well, we're really thankful to get lay pastors. Charlotte Qualley from Lemon comes out and helps, and Karen Nelson helps with fills in for. So they help us keep going. Otherwise, we could never afford a regular minister. So
We've been
we're
super
kind of
blessed that way.
kind of stubborn. We got a couple of young families there. We had 9 kids in church last Sunday, and then there was one this Sunday. But it's fun to have the little kids. Yeah.
Well, growing up in Amadon, I know all about small churches and everything. And, if there's 12, 15 people in church on Sunday, it's a really good day.
Right, yeah.
You had Pastor Erickson then?
Mm-hmm, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
a cool guy.
When I was younger and everything. And then, then we're with Bowman and Rame. And we had Strand, and now we've got a new couple.
Yeah, we were
Cool.
4 churches at one time, and now it's just us that are still going. Well, I guess Bucyrus is too, but they're kind of separated.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, rounding out the list of questions we have, what is one of the worst storms that you've lived through?
Well, it has to be blizzards. So you get stranded out there, and we only had 1.5 miles to the road, but that was really...
The worst storm, I don't know, was 64, 66, and I was working at the packing plant. I wasn't farming then. It got so cold that the cows froze sitting up. They were just sitting. We got some pictures. They were just sitting and froze. You know how they sit lay down on 3 feet? They were just froze.
They suffocated
solid.
Is what happened.
Yeah,
So,
that was the worst storm I ever went through. Yeah.
but we had some where we got, kids couldn't go to school, or we couldn't get to school for, like a week.
But
Well,
that was a nasty one.
We had enough shelter with the barn that we could get them all in the barn eventually, but then trying to get them in the barn sometime, that was a story and a half. But
But yeah, that 64, I don't know what 60, Howard would remember. He remembers better.
Yeah.
At least he claims he does.
yeah.
I think it was 66, but we got, like I said, we got pictures of the cow just froze, sitting there froze. Mm-hmm. And that was definitely, for me, the nastiest one.
Yeah.
Well, no, Ori, I'm not old enough to be able to correct you, so even if you are wrong, I don't know any better.
So I can tell you fibs all day. You wouldn't know the difference.
Well, we are recording, so somebody probably would catch it.
Other than that, I don't think we had too many nasty storms. Have we?
No,
I mean, we
it
did
was-
normal ones, some hail. And
We've been fortunate to, before we got to the farm, there was a couple, they said they must have been little tornadoes that came through and took a couple buildings, but we've been fortunate there that, I guess it took a couple things, but
been really blessed with hail not ruining buildings. you
yeah,
know,
we've been real fortunate there.
so far. I shouldn't say that, because every time I say that, then it happens.
Right, here,
Knock on wood.
yeah, we'll find some,
Yeah, right here.
there we go. Okay, well, those are all the questions I have for you two, and thanks for coming in, and I hope you enjoyed yourself. I know I really enjoyed sitting here and chatting with you.
Yeah, well, we're still out there on the farm, and we don't want to leave. We like to keep it up, but it's fun to have people come into our
There's
yard and
always
say,
something to do on the farm.
yeah. People come into the
Always.
yard and say, "Oh, I love your farm here. It's so nice," and so it's nice to have people enjoy it. Right now we're overcome with tumbling weeds, but ooh, we'll overcome that.
I know, I just got an email that somebody had, one of our state specialists was wanting pictures, and he emailed at like 9, and then at 9:30 he sent out another email, and he's like, I've gotten 25 emails and lots of pictures, and I just want to thank you for your quick response on this whole tumbleweed fiasco that we're going through.
Yeah, we've got placing our trees right northwest of the house. It's just solid packed in there. And then our new trees, the rows out there, there's a couple rows of just solid
But we'll
tumbleweeds.
get
But
them next spring.
Jordan had a good sunflower crop there, but also a good weed crop.
No,
Next spring will be cleaning time.
Yeah.
always something to do, right? You think
Right.
you got it all
I
done?
got a
and
little
something
shop
new.
in my barn where I used to feed calves and stuff. I made that into a little shop. And we got some antiques in there. We cleaned it all out because I went in there one day and I thought, oh, what a mess. So I tore bins out and cleaned it all out and got quite a few antiques in there actually.
Yeah, well, we've
Old
done a
Carter
lot of
Ring
work.
As I'm
cleaner
throwing
and-
this. Yeah, didn't I come out and you showed it to me?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
think
know
so.
if we had the barn. Did we have the barn? We had the house.
No, I remember going
the
through the
barn.
barn because we went. You had some
We probably did.
your trees. You had some winter burn on your trees, right?
Yeah,
Am I
Okay.
remembering
Right,
it
yeah.
right?
So your number's probably better than
yeah, we,
I remember the strangest things. I can't remember names, but I can remember like coming out and
yeah, they said it froze too early in the fall, and then we had to replace quite a few
Okay.
junipers.
yeah. Well, and then it had rained so much and everything, so the trees kind of just kept growing, and then it got cold
Oh,
and
was that was
they
kind of
weren't
caused
ready.
it too? Okay,
we didn't.
didn't have that this year.
yeah, no, not that problem.
We have a carpet of that one grass, Pressalon or whatever. Yeah, all that, I don't know. He didn't want to pull it out because it would blow, because we had drifts of dirt in there last.
Right.
So you never know what to do. But
She's got a. She says her great grandma, but it's got to be older than that. We got a
spinning wheel.
that was.
He wants to call it a threshing
fell
machine.
apart. I was want to call it a threshing machine, but anyway, that had fallen apart. But this came. Her grandma, her great grandma, whatever,
Yeah,
was
his
born in
great-grandma.
1827. So that's her spinning wheel. So that's old.
It kind of fall apart, but we got it all together
cool,
right.
I don't think they thought it was too cool back then, but
No, I wouldn't think it was cool if I had to make my yarn that way, but so, anyway,
Well,
thank you.
thank you too.